The day I became the most hated man in Lakeside Estates was the same day I became its most powerful. They fined me $500 for fishing with my grieving daughter. Their biggest mistake. Because what they didn't know was that I had 4 million reasons to fight back. And enough spite to use every one. For the first time in months, the morning air felt gentle. The sun shimmered over the still water, painting gold ripples across the lake as my daughter, Solon, leaned over the dock with her fishing rod. She was smiling, a small, fragile smile. But for me, it was everything. After losing my wife, Rachel, that smile had become my entire reason for waking up. I thought moving to Lakeside Estates would help us heal. The community looked perfect. Quiet streets, manicured lawns, a private lake right in the center. Our peaceful escape. I'd spent 15 years building my fortune so I could retire early and focus on being a father. No more meetings, no more deals. Just memories and calm water. That morning, as Solon reeled in her line, laughing softly, I remember thinking, maybe life is finally settling down. We had the lake, the house, the quiet. Everything we needed to start again. But paradise, I've learned, always hides its cracks. And that perfect reflection on the water, it can shatter in an instant. Because that morning, the calm ended. And the storm, wearing designer sneakers and a clipboard, was already walking our way. "Excuse me." The voice sliced through the still air like a knife. I turned to see a woman in her 50s marching toward us, her expression tight enough to crack glass. Perfectly styled hair, expensive sunglasses, tablet in hand. She screamed authority on a power trip. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" she asked. "Fishing," I replied simply, keeping my tone calm. "Just spending some time with my daughter." Her lips curled. "Fishing is prohibited in the community lake. That's a $500 violation. I'm Karen Wellington, HOA president." I blinked. There must be some mistake. Our realtor said fishing was allowed. "Regulations changed last month," she said sharply. "All residents were notified. Perhaps you should check your spam folder." I felt Solon's shoulders tighten beside me. "We didn't get anything," I said. Karen smirked. "Ignorance of the rules isn't an excuse." She tapped her tablet, printed something from a small portable device, and handed me a slip, violation notice. Behind me, Solon's voice was small. "Dad? Did we do something wrong?" "No, sweetheart," I said softly. But inside, something dark began to stir. As Karen strutted away, heels clicking against the wooden dock, I looked at that $500 fine and decided she just picked the wrong man to mess with. That night, I sat at my computer, scrolling through HOA documents. I wanted to understand what gave one woman the power to ruin a morning that meant everything to my daughter. Karen Wellington had been HOA president for 8 straight years. The board rotated, except her. I found posts on neighborhood forums, residents complaining about her harassment, fines for mailbox paint, grass length, even Christmas lights. The more I read, the angrier I got. This wasn't about community standards. It was about control. The next morning, I met my neighbor, an older man walking his dog. "You must be Remy," he said. "Heard about your run-in with our neighborhood dictator." His name was Merrick Henderson, a retired attorney. Over coffee at his place, he showed me files, actual folders of old violation letters, meeting notes, and property records. "She's been doing this for years," Merrick said. "People sell their homes just to get away. Guess who buys them? Karen's real estate company." I leaned back, stunned. "She's turning HOA power into profit." He nodded slowly. "And she's got plans for that lake too. Big ones." I frowned. "What kind of plans?" Merrick's smile was thin. "Let's just say she doesn't see it as a lake. More like prime real estate." That's when I realized this wasn't personal anymore. It was war. Merrick introduced me to Samuel Washington, a retired banker who'd been tracking HOA finances for years. His living room looked like a crime investigation wall, charts, documents, names connected by strings. "Karen's been manipulating property values," Samuel explained. "She finds people until they sell cheap. Then her companies buy the homes." I wasn't shocked, I was furious. "But here's what she doesn't want anyone to know," Samuel said, handing me a document. The lake? The HOA doesn't own it. I blinked. What? It's owned by Meridian Development, the company that built this neighborhood 30 years ago. The HOA just leases recreational rights. That lease expires in 2 months. A slow smile spread across my face. So when the lease ends, he nodded. Whoever buys it next controls everything. And rumor is, Karen's already negotiating to buy it herself. I felt my heartbeat quicken. This was it, the crack in her armor. She's planning to build private lakefront homes, Samuel said. She'll make millions. I stood, staring out the window toward the calm water. Then maybe it's time someone else made an offer. For the first time since Rachel's passing, I felt alive. Not in grief, but in purpose. Karen thought she owned this community. She was about to find out she didn't even own the water under her reflection. Karen must have sensed something. Within a week, violation notices started appearing on my door. Weeds too tall, mailbox too short, improper shade of taupe on my garage. It was laughable. But it wasn't funny when Solon came home crying. Dad, she said through tears. The kids said their parents told them we're troublemakers. That night, I sat at the kitchen table. Every fake violation spread out like trophies of her arrogance. She wanted control. I wanted justice. And I wasn't alone. Merrick began gathering other residents. People who'd been burned by Karen's rules. A nurse fined for her foster kids being too loud at the pool. A teacher cited for holiday lights. Each story was worse than the last. We started meeting quietly in garages, cafes, anywhere she wouldn't suspect. Our plan wasn't about revenge yet. It was about information. Then one night, Samuel called. You were right, he said. Karen's deal to buy the lake is almost done. I looked out at the moonlit water. The same lake she fined me for touching. Not anymore, I said. That lake is about to change owners. She thought she was untouchable. But she'd forgotten the golden rule. Never pick a fight with someone who can afford to buy the battlefield. I met a contact of Samuel's, a developer named Robert Chun. Over coffee, he confirmed it. Karen was offering $300,000 for the lake, financed through investors. Meridian Development needed quick cash but wasn't sold on her slow payment plan. How fast could you close? He asked. I smiled. 7 days. Robert raised an eyebrow. All cash. All cash. I set up a new company, Thorncroft Holdings LLC, to keep my name hidden. 2 days later, the papers were signed. The lake, the shoreline, every inch of it was now mine. No one in the community knew, not even Karen. As I drove home, I passed the lake. The water shimmered under the sunset, calm and quiet. Solon's laughter echoed in my mind. She fined us for peace. I'd bought it back with interest. Now I just had to wait. Karen had a big announcement planned, a community improvement project meeting where she'd unveil her vision for the future of Lakeside Estates. Little did she know that future was already signed, sealed, and owned by the man she tried to humiliate. This was no longer a fight. It was a performance. And I was about to steal the show. The evening of the big HOA event, the lake was decorated with banners and lights. Karen stood on a stage, microphone in hand, bragging about her vision. Luxury gazebos, private lounges, exclusive membership fees. The crowd applauded politely. That's when I walked in. Afternoon, everyone, I said, taking the microphone from her hand. Beautiful night, isn't it? Karen's eyes narrowed. You're not invited, Mr. Thorncroft. Actually, I said, unfolding a document. As the new owner of this lake, I'd say I'm the only one invited. The murmurs started immediately. Karen laughed nervously. That's ridiculous. The HOA owns this lake. Not anymore. I held up the deed. I bought it from Meridian Development last week. Effective immediately, all HOA rights are terminated. You're standing on private property. The crowd gasped. A police officer stepped forward, one I'd briefed earlier. Ma'am, he's correct. You'll need to clear the area. Karen's face drained of color. You can't do this, she shouted. Oh, I can, I said calmly. You fined me for fishing. Now you're banned from the water entirely. The silence that followed was sweeter than any victory speech. As residents began walking away, whispering, Karen stood frozen, the queen of a kingdom that no longer existed. The fallout was immediate. Karen tried to spin the story, claiming I'd stolen community property. But once the deed went public and residents learned she'd been planning to build luxury homes for profit, the tide turned fast. People were furious. Longtime board members resigned. Others demanded audits. And when financial records came to light, showing Karen had funneled HOA funds into her own company, her empire collapsed overnight. Meanwhile, I reopened the lake, but with a purpose. We turned it into a community conservation program, teaching kids about ecology and fishing. Solon ran the first youth class, proudly showing other children how to release fish gently back into the water. For the first time, the lake felt like what it was meant to be: peaceful, free, alive. Karen vanished from the neighborhood soon after. But peace has a price, and I had one last payment waiting for her. Weeks later, Merrick called me over with a grin. He pressed play on a recording, Karen's voice, offering him a bribe to convince me to sell the lake back. We gave the recording to the authorities. The case reopened. Fraud, coercion, embezzlement, her reputation was finished. When the verdict came, I stood by the lake with Solon. The water was calm again. They fined us for fishing, I said quietly. But in the end, we caught something bigger. Solon smiled. What's that? Freedom. As the sun set over our lake, I realized revenge hadn't healed me. Justice had. Sometimes peace isn't given. It's reclaimed. And if they ever tell you not to rock the boat, remember, some lakes are worth stirring.